What's up, everyone? In this video, I'm going to go over some technical analysis for the general market. Then I'll go into some specific stocks. I'll cover DWAC, AMD, Tesla, Palantir, SOUN AI, C3 AI, and then I will close it out with RIVN. So if you want to skip around to the stocks that you are interested in, feel free to do that below. So with that being said, let's go right in. I start off with the SPY here because it's really the main index that leads the general market. It's kind of leading the dance for all the other stocks, right? If the S&P 500 drops 10%, pretty much every single stock that we're going to be talking about today is going to move lower regardless of what that specific chart looks like. So really, before we go into individual stocks, we need to pick a direction for the stock market, and I think it is actually higher, contrary to a lot of the bears that are in the market right now. So we can see that the SPY is coming down to support at about about $431, which is where the index had bottomed out in June of 2023. It's also where we've seen the index kind of top out in early June. So past resistance becomes new support. We saw that here in late June. I think this level acts as support once again here. And we also saw this level act as resistance back in August of 2022. So this is kind of where the market, topped out in the summer of 2022 before that kind of big drop. Past resistance here, past resistance here should act as support like it did in June. I think we'd likely see this level act as support once again for the S&P 500. So I think we will hold this level and likely move up to resistance at about $445 for the S&P 500. So that's kind of what I'm seeing for the SPY. I think as we come down to nearly oversold conditions on the SPY, I think we hold this level and move higher. So my general prediction for the market is a move higher in this next week. And then when we take a look at some of the individual names here, I'll start off with DWAC, which is the Truth Social SPAC, kind of correlated to former President Trump, and there's a ton of retail interest in pretty much every name that I'm going to cover today, and that's really just the main reason why I am covering those names. So the stock is coming down to support at around $15, which is where shares had bottomed out in early August. So we can see here now that this is kind of all loaded in. This is where shares bottomed out on August 9th. We ended up moving higher, found some resistance around $17, moved lower, and now we're back at that same level at about $15. I believe we see this level hold and we get a move higher over the coming weeks for DWAC. And I think really this $17 level could be kind of the next level in which we find resistance, as this is where shares had found resistance in August. It's also where shares had topped out in February of this year. So I think we could see a quick move from 15 to $17 over this week for DWAC. And then with that being said, though, I'll take a look at AMD here. So AMD, kind of with the general tech sector, has been getting beat up a bit, over the past couple weeks or so. So we see some support at around basically $105, $106, which is where shares had bottomed basically throughout the entire summer. And now, since we've broken this level, or really I should say this level is at about $110. Now that we've broken this level, we're moving down to support at about $100, which is where shares had topped out in March of this year. It's also where shares had topped out in August of last year. It's where shares had bottomed in March and February of 2022. So, definitely does seem like a significant level of support for the stock. So this leads me to believe this $100 level will hold for AMD, and we could see a move higher. If I had to give a high conviction price target, I would say we probably move from about 105 where we closed on Friday to about $110. I think that kind of $5 move is a safe move. Obviously, we could move higher up to about 125, which is, kind of the next major level of resistance for the stock. But, kind of just kind of trying to give a weekly price per prediction here. I think 105 to 110 is very likely for the stock. And then with that being said, let's talk about one of the biggest stocks in the market, which is Tesla, which actually is the number one retail name. Retail investors have the most capital exposed to Tesla stock. So with that being said, we're coming down to support at around, you can call it 205. This is where shares had topped out in March. It's also where shares had topped out in February. So this is a significant level of support for Tesla. I believe this $205 level, $204 level likely holds for the stock, and we see a move higher over the coming weeks. It's tough to say exactly where shares will go, but you could say the next major level of resistance is at around $240. So it would be pretty logical to see a move from where we close at about $215 to about $240 over this coming week. That's kind of what I'm seeing for Tesla. And it's also worth noting that shares are oversold according to RSI. And last time shares were oversold was in April of 2023, and shares went from $150 to $270 in the coming months. So oversold conditions kind of coinciding with a move back down to support. So this leads me to believe Tesla moves higher. And then Palantir here, obviously I'm picking charts that I think look pretty good, just because I think the market likely holds up. So I'm kind of trying to, be somewhat bullish on the general market. Therefore, I'm targeting charts that look good. That's kind of why I'm having a bullish thought and prediction on all of these stocks. So we're coming down to support at about $13.50, which is where shares had bottomed out in June. And we also are pretty close to oversold conditions, according to RSI. Both of these developments, if you will, are likely to lead to shares moving higher. How high? Well, I wouldn't say a move up to resistance at about $17 would be quite ambitious, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I do think we could get a pretty quick move to $17. If it takes a week or two, not really sure on that, but I do think we are likely to see that this support level holds, and we get a move higher up to $17 over the coming weeks. And then let's take a look at SoundHound AI. So SoundHound AI obviously reported earnings, I think it was 2 weeks ago, early in August. Shares did move higher in reaction to earnings. And we've also kind of been bouncing around this $1.90 support level, which is where shares had bottomed in August. And we moved higher up to the 200-day, and now we're coming back down to this level once again. This is also where shares had bottomed in March, also where shares had bottomed in February. And it's where we topped out in December, past resistance, become new support. So I think this $1.90 level likely holds for the stock, and we see a move higher up to about $2.70 over the coming weeks. So that is kind of what I'm thinking for SoundHound AI. I think this $1.90 level likely holds. Maybe we come down Monday a bit just to test this level, and then we see a move higher up to about $2.60. Obviously, we have the 200-day moving average acting as resistance for the stock. We saw it act as resistance on Thursday, Wednesday, and Tuesday of last week, and also in late July. So, I think a solid move up to about $2.50 to this resistance level is kind of where I think shares will likely find some selling pressure. Obviously, if you've been on this channel for a while, I'm quite bullish this stock, and I think shares could obviously move much higher in the future, but just kind of making a short-term price prediction based on technical analysis. But I do think this $1.90 level likely holds, and we see a move higher for SoundHound AI. And then let's take a look at the artificial intelligence, kind of the largest AI stock, the largest pure play AI stock, which is C3 AI. So C3 AI is coming down to support around $30. This is where shares had topped out in March and February of this year. So yes, we broke it a bit here, but as any technical buff knows, these support and resistance levels are more of a range than they are a specific, to the penny price point, right? So I do think this $30 support level likely holds for the stock, as this is where shares had bottomed out in June. It's also where shares had topped out in March and February. So past resistance becomes new support. We saw that act as support in June. We saw it pretty much act as support in late June as well. Therefore, I believe this level holds, and we see a move higher over the coming weeks for the stock. Where do we move? Well, it's really tough to call, but you could say we saw some consolidation around $37. It would be somewhat logical to see a pretty decent move up to about $37 over the coming weeks. And the next major level of resistance is at $44, which is where shares had consistently topped out over the summer. So I think we see a move from $30 to about $44 over the coming months for the stock. And then Rivian, another very popular name, obviously EV stock. It's had some very bullish news over the past couple months, which has caused shares to move higher. And we've seen Wall Street become very bullish on the stock. So obviously a US-based EV company here, and we're coming down to test support at around $19.60. This is where shares had bottomed in July. It's also where shares had topped out a bit in January, and we saw some consolidation around this level. It's also where shares had bottomed in May of 2022. So this seems like a very significant level for the stock. I do believe this $19 level holds, and we see a move higher for Rivian. I feel like almost a cop out saying that we could see a move higher up to $21. That's obviously not much of a move. So really, there's really two things you should be watching: this support level at about $19.50 for the stock, and this resistance level at $21.30. If this resistance level is broken, it is very likely that we could see a move higher over the coming weeks for the stock. And then this is all kind of happening on the backs of bullish momentum. So we also saw that the 50-day moving average crossed above the 200-day moving average in early August, which, for those that don't know, that's called a golden cross and implies bullish momentum. So we're seeing this drop lower, and we're seeing a test of support coinciding with bullish momentum signal, which leads me to believe that the stock likely holds this level and moves higher over the coming weeks. So Rivian, definitely think we hold this level. Obviously, all of these kind of predictions are dependent on the SPY kind of holding up, right? And obviously we have a Jackson Hole meeting next week, which is we will get a ton of Fed speak. Powell will give a speech. So obviously if they tell you, if the Fed officials tell the market that they're going to be raising rates significantly over the coming meetings, well, that would obviously hurt the market and likely cause a sell-off. So be on the lookout for that news event. Obviously, that's kind of independent of technical analysis. But with that being said, though, I think the SPY holds up and we see a move higher. And I think the stocks that I talked through today are going to be the stocks that outperform once we get that move higher. So that is my opinion on all those stocks. Obviously, do your own research in D&D, but let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm very curious. So with that being said, I'll end the video there. If you got some value from this video, please leave a like. We post company breakdowns and important market moving news on this channel on a daily basis, so make sure you are subscribed. If you would like to receive my daily portfolio moves, my exits, my entries, and see how me and my team of analysts are trading the markets, join the Discord through the link in the description below to get our free 7-day trial. Also, if you would like to join our free daily newsletter, sign up to our Substack, which is linked below as well. With that being said, good luck everyone, happy trading, happy investing.